motivation. Jonas Andrew-Phillip helps me avoid desperation. There's two facts to rebuild a nation, to make us strong. Enhance a bond full of brothers and sisters. Tell the future we can build whatever we wish to. Put your mind on the map, eyes on the prize. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe.
I don't know what to say, guys. I don't know if I can say I'm honored, thrilled, but I'm in the presence of greatness right now. That's all I can say. And she knows I'm in the presence of greatness. And all I can do is say, we're in for a treat today. We're going to hear from the queen herself.
Hey.
Introduce yourself for us.
No, thank you. That is actually the best intro ever. Hi everyone, my name is Shola. I currently work at Multiverse. We are one of the fastest growing startups in the UK, and they offer apprenticeships in digital data tech, etc. And I'm in the B2B team, so I manage our B2B marketing partnerships at the moment. And then on the side, I run Youth Unlocked, which is the youth community platform and podcast. And then when I can, I do a lot of youth activism. I think that's the right word, activism.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Activism.
Yeah.
And actually this Saturday, I've got my TEDx coming up where I'm going to be talking about apprenticeships. Nice. So there's a lot going on. It's been crazy, but I'm so happy to be on this podcast because Jonas is the GOAT.
Oh, thank you.
Period.
You're the GOAT as well. Come on. Oh, come on. But yeah, this is the thing, you guys need to hear this. Shola works for Multiverse, right? And research Multiverse for us. She runs Youth Unlocked, another great organization. She's doing a TED Talk, and she's a youth activist. Come on, guys, come on. It's time for you guys. I want you guys, you listen to the Let's Talk Facts podcast. You need to come out of your comfort zone and be like Shola, because a lot of
you have to step out your comfort zone. This stuff wasn't natural.
Exactly.
Like, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. This is the thing, a lot of adults say, oh yeah, this Gen Z people, they don't care, they just want to build technology. Come on, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. There's stats that show that our generation is a much more entrepreneurial mindset, out there, hustle. We don't stay like with the norm. We want to like go above and beyond. Mm-hmm. And considering like even the climate right now with COVID, people are still doing amazing things. It's actually mad. Exactly. So just imagine. Exactly. Yeah.
When stuff goes back to normal, I'm excited.
Whoa. I'm excited for everyone.
And if you could describe yourself with 3 words, what would they be and why?
Okay, I like that. So the first word, I would definitely say motivated, 100%. Well, mostly self-motivated. And I guess my reasons for that is everything I've got in life and things I've achieved and work has always been mostly from me steering that. And a lot of, growing up in Endz, like you don't get things given to you on a silver spoon. So you got to work for that. And you have to have a lot of self-motivation because you might not always have that person behind you, like, do this. So self-motivation would be definitely the first one. I'd also say humble. That is just a word that I would say I am. I think being humble is how you become great. You always have to remember where you're coming from. And I think that importantly is something I always want to be. And I hope that I come across that way. And then the last one is authentic. I always keep it real. And I just try to be myself in every situation, even those situations where you're in an environment where there's not people like you. I always try to keep it real because I always realize first thing people say to me is like, the way you presented that or the way you did that, it was so you. Like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I'm being myself. So I think those would be the 3 words. Yeah, so self-motivated, humble, authentic.
Yeah, and I've got to say, the first time I actually spoke to Shola, I swear, and I felt these straight away because we were talking. I just DM'd her because I just wanted to talk to her because I'm like, this queen is doing amazing things. I've got to just chat to her, network with her and see what she's like. And then I remember I asked you because I felt like, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of felt like I was forcing it a bit, but I was like, let me just keep going. Oh, you didn't think that?
No, I've told you this before. I didn't think that at all. I looked at your page. Actually, to be fair, you messaged me, but I saw you already on LinkedIn.
Oh.
I saw what you were doing anyway. So I was like, you're doing amazing things. So to me, it didn't come across that way.
Okay, cool. So
not at all.
And when I asked you what motivated you to do what you do, and you said myself, I was like, oh, I love this. I love it when people say that because everyone says, and in my eyes, that is being humble. Because if you were, you'd kind of be like, oh well, you'd lie about it, right? Because you don't want to come across as that. But you were like myself, and most of the time it is yourself that motivates you. Let's not lie. Sometimes, yes, there's no such thing as a self-made millionaire, but who's gonna tell you to take action? Some people may tell you, but are you actually gonna do it if someone tells you? You have to say to yourself, you know what? I want to achieve that. I see the world like this. I'm gonna ensure I can do what I can to make it that. And that's exactly probably what you for, right?
Literally, like, who's gonna wake you up out of bed? Like, they can give you the resources, but you still need to get up.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find the stuff. You need to implement the stuff. So it has to be yourself.
Exactly. And the whole thing about humbleness as well and your humility. I have to say it to you because the stuff that you've done, but you say stuff like, I'm not famous and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like,
No, I hate that comment.
Yeah. Because I remember you put on your story about someone that said, oh, how did you go on SBTV and get famous?
Oh yeah, I remember.
And I was like, this girl is so humble. I was like, obviously you can't big yourself up and stuff like that. But she's like, I'm not famous and stuff. She's worked with so many big companies and she's still like this. Like, I admire to be like that when I get to that level. And I think a lot of young people admire that from you as well, to be honest with you. Like, I see you as a leader in this space. I honestly do.
Oh man, that touches my heart.
Is when I actually connected with you, and obviously when I connect with people, I look on their highlights to see what they've been up to. And I saw what you were doing when I was in secondary school still. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I know obviously you're 2 years older than me, but I was still like, oh my gosh, this is amazing stuff. And stuff like that is stuff where, again, I say to myself, a lot of adults, and sometimes even our young people ourselves, because I was on Clubhouse today and I was talking to a bunch of adults about crabs in a bucket mentality.
Oh, don't.
This is the whole thing of a lot of, especially in Endz, as you said earlier, in Endz, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of crabs in the bucket mentality. And I feel that the actual people that are actually taking strides to be great are the ones that they get cussed about it. Like, even me, people used to tell me that people didn't even chat to me, came up to me.
I remember you telling me that story.
Yeah, and they being like, oh, Jonas, you're gone Hollywood. I was like, what? It's been a year since secondary school. I've been acting the same way. But then it's like, do they really rate me? Deep down, do they always rate me? Or is it crabs in a bucket? But I think that being humble, you have to say to yourself still, okay, let me take myself out of this emotional state I'm in right now. Whether you're crying or angry, whatever, we're always emotional regardless if something like that will happen to us.
Yeah.
Am I really conveying and acting in a certain way that it could come across that way? Because still, humans are emotional, as we said earlier. So you still need to say to yourself, what can I do to ensure that that doesn't happen again?
Exactly. Yeah, that is the right mentality. A lot of young people need to have that, but the crabs in a barrel, that is real. Yeah. And the problem with people like that is they won't support you, but they'll support a random influencer doing the same thing as you. And that's the bit I don't get. Yeah. I never understand.
That's the thing. Like, I see some people saying happy birthday to influencers. I'm like, they're not gonna see that. But your friends will see it when you're promoting their business, but you don't want to promote it because you want them in Endz with you forever. They don't want to stay in Endz. They love Endz. They love Endz with their heart. But they know
yeah.
Exactly. This is what I tell people all the time. I always love the place I grew up. But do I want to stay here forever? No. Not really.
Who doesn't want a better life? I mean, especially when you're getting it yourself. But it doesn't mean that you turn a blind eye and you act different. But, allow me to thrive, but come with me. Exactly. If you don't want to come with me, then let me go.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, it's that simple.
It's like you're climbing a ladder and someone's just dragging you down and you're like, mate,
literally,
I'm trying to pull you up and you're just sitting on the floor. I'm going to have to let go of you. And
no time for that.
There's so many people out there and this is what a lot of successful people say. They say, there's a lot of people out there that I wanted to bring on my journey, but they didn't want to be brought. They wanted the quick fix. They didn't want, for example, for me, the person knows who, I'm talking about a friend of mine right now. He knows who he is, but I'm always going to be loyal with him because when I needed somebody, he was there for me when I was younger. But he wants to be successful. He's got an amazing business idea. And I'm telling him, bro, you're going to do amazing, bro, if you keep that mentality up, though. Because I was telling him about a workshop that is being run or an event. And unless it doesn't have anything to do with either wealth or money, my man's not there. He's not there. So I said to him, look, you realize that when I started this stuff, I didn't look into money. I looked into actually bettering myself. And I didn't even need to look into money before the money started rolling in for me. So what makes you think that just because you're reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, you're
Oh,
gonna
don't.
yeah. And then this is the thing.
Don't.
This is gonna sound like I'm taking shots, but I want him to understand this, bro. The two books that I know he's read, so he wants to read Malcolm Gladwell too. But I think that it's not a thing with him. It's a thing of that's a lot. Like the second book I ever read was Rich Dad Poor Dad. The first one was How to Win Friends and Influence People. But even me myself,
I have that book. I need to finish that. I need to finish it.
a good book. But even me myself, I think in my subconscious mind, I don't know why I read that first. It might have been because obviously it's money, but I don't see money like that. I see money as a tool. But I think more people need to see money like a tool and just say,
I love that.
I'm gonna go for my goals, but money's a tool. Just like I always say, social media is a tool. That's why I don't find it toxic, because I'm using it to better my life. It's a tool at the end of the day. If anything's toxic,
I love that.
get that quick unfollow. Like that's what it's got to be like.
No, 100%. Yeah, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. My aunt recommended it to me, and I read another book from Kiyosaki. I think it was like Why A students work for B students. And I prefer that one because it was more like the mentality behind it. And I've never really been an A-star student, so I really liked that one. But I get you. People read that stuff and then it's almost like they're brainwashed sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you putting in the work? Because you're saying a lot of books that you're reading, but what are you getting from that? How are you implementing what you've been taught? Or are you just going to go around reading a bunch of other books? So, but that's another topic.
That's what Victor always says. I don't care how many books I read, I care about implementation. And
Victor. Yeah, exactly.
I was like, okay, cool. That's the truth. I'm gonna not worry about how many books.
100%. Yeah, don't get caught up.
Exactly. And me and you actually have many similarities. However, the main one is that we have both done apprenticeships. So why do you think that young people are not usually encouraged to do apprenticeships rather than going to university or college?
That is such a big question because there's so many layers to that. Like one is the schools. They don't teach it enough. And when they do talk about it, it's usually like a side thing, like, okay, cool. Everyone comes to the assembly to learn about uni. And if you want to, there's a workshop about apprenticeships over there, but you can self-select to go to that. And I think it's mainly, I don't know about right now, but when I was in school, it was about their incentive. They had an incentive to drive people to university because that's why schools will say X amount of our students went on to go to university. And if parents see that, they're like, well, if, I don't know, 90% of their students went on to university, that means they're a good school. But it doesn't, because that doesn't take into consideration what universities, what people are studying. So I don't know how that can be like a definition of success, but clearly to other people it is. And there is no stat about who went on to do an apprenticeship. So they're just not held at the same level. And I think naturally back then as well, when I was going to do my apprenticeship, there wasn't a lot of awareness about it in general. And people had this in their mind that if you were doing an apprenticeship, it's just typical engineering apprenticeship or level 2 hair and beauty apprenticeships. People didn't realize that you could actually do them in like digital marketing, software engineering, accounting, and like the more careers that are like people say established careers. So I think it's a case of schools not having the incentive. Like, why would they need to? If they're not going to get marked on that, if the school doesn't get, no, they don't have to put out a report that says how many of their students went on to apprenticeship. Why? Like, what's the incentive for them? Why would they need to? I think parents as well, they have that kind of misconstrued mindset when I've spoken to parents before, because I used to do like a lot of outreach where I'd go into schools and like to parents even to talk about my experience, and they don't understand. They're like, well, why would I put my kid in an apprenticeship when if they go to uni, they're going to make more money or they're going to have a better career? So I think they just don't have the right information. So it's a lack of information as well. And then I think for young people, just hearing that growing up, it can be really difficult to like do the different sort of route. I always knew I wanted to do an apprenticeship. I was told about uni. In college, I was forced to do UCAS. I just basically pretended I was doing it, skipped that to just research. No, I'm sorry, why am I doing a UCAS application when I don't want to go? I was just pretending. I was like, yeah, miss, whatever. Didn't do that. I was like, and I didn't even have an apprenticeship at the time, but I was like, I don't really care. I just want to, I'll know I'll get one, but I'm not going to just do uni because everyone else says. So it's a few things, but mostly society. And I think the minute those sort of myths are debunked and the right information is out there, people will want to do an apprenticeship. Because then when they talk to me or like other apprentices that I know, we tell them about the things we do, they're like, oh, like I wish I did an apprenticeship, or I want to do an apprenticeship. So it's just about who's conveying the information. If people are going to say, you know, if you go to university, you get a social life and you're going to get loads of pay and whatever, I can't blame a 14-year-old that's like, I want to do that, because they don't know that apprenticeships can offer them a social life, for example. They don't know that you can make so much money without debt doing an apprenticeship. So it's about the information that's out there. That's why I would say people aren't going forward for it.
Yeah, it's true, you know, because I think I rate my secondary school because while I was there, they didn't actually, but our new head teacher came in, I have a really good relationship with actually. And he obviously was getting started when I was in year 11, but when we left now, I'm seeing apprenticeship assemblies for the year 11s and stuff like that. I'm like, I rate it.
So good.
I am not jealous that he did that.
That is so good.
I was like, my man's doing apprenticeship. Like they have a whole careers month at my school. I was meant to speak there, but then COVID came the day before I was supposed to speak there. COVID hit, so it was a bit peak. But I remember I was just like, no, I rate this still. And I used to hate my secondary school when I was younger until about year 11 and the new head teacher came in. And I felt that because in college, I felt what you said about the UCAS thing. I did the same thing. I was like, I am not filling this out. Why am I filling this out for? And then they were probably forcing us to do it. And I think they were even giving detentions. I was like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, I was like, what? Like, it's college. But I was like, you know what? I know I'm not going to do this because my plan at first was actually when I left school, my plan was to obviously do voluntary stuff and everything that I was doing. Then it was to do my college stuff and then do an apprenticeship. So I should be an apprentice. If that was the plan, I'd be just still new to my apprenticeship now. But when I was in college, I was like, nah, I'm not feeling this still. I was getting top grades. That's the first time I ever got top grades. Because towards the end of year 11, I started to get good grades because I kind of like, I pulled my pants up. I started fixing up. And then at college, I was still like, I was banging out college. And then I just wasn't feeling it. I was like, I'm getting top grades, but this isn't me. And then I did my apprenticeship and I was like, you know what? I'm liking being with adults in a working environment. I'm learning new things, obviously. Like every day is like not going to be the best day. However, it's still a good experience. And it's a privilege. I see myself as a
So do I.
It's a privilege. Yeah. Right? Like all my friends that used to have way more, I was so broke in secondary school. You don't understand. I used to walk around after school asking people for chips and £1 and stuff because I didn't have money. Like my mom would say, Jonas, if you do your chores, I'll give you £1. I was like, I can't be asked to do that. I can't be asked. So then I just be like, people would just be eating their chips. I'd be like, yo, I bought me a chip.
Yeah, you're one of those people. No, but back then, like, all you needed was £1 and you could get a box. I know about now.
Now, yeah, it was prices. But nowadays, when I'm even when we go to like cinema, Jonas only has £10. Everyone else has hella money. Jonas has 10 or 20. That's still a lot, to be fair. That's still a lot. I'm not gonna complain. But everyone else had hella. But nowadays, it's like, oh, Jonas, man, like you got money and I don't. I'm like, wow, the tables have turned, haven't they? The tables have turned. But that's another privilege too. But we've been talking about privileges and stuff. However, what would you say the pros and cons of doing an apprenticeship are?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer this question because I feel like with anything, people are really defensive of the route they've chosen, whether it's an apprenticeship or uni. So everyone tries to sell it to you. I don't do that. My experience was good and I can talk about the pros, but you also have to talk about the cons because nothing is perfect. I'm not going to try and fake it and paint that picture. But I think the main pros, again, because we're talking about money, I'll start with that first. The fact that you get paid and you're not in debt. And, you know, people say, oh, you don't get paid a lot. Well, actually, I don't know if that's true because it depends on a few things. It depends on your age, your qualification, the company you're at, how long your apprenticeship is. So it can range. Speaking from Multiverse, you can get paid anywhere between 18 and 24K. And I think that's great when you're coming out of college or school. That is great money to be on. And also, yeah, you don't have the debt bringing you down. And for a lot of us, some of us are still at home. So if you consider that you're making like money, you don't even have like hefty bills yet. So it's this great position to be in. I'd also say being able to learn on the job, that is something that for me is a pro. I understand everyone learns differently, but for me it was a pro because when I would be my coach and she teach me about, I don't know, how to do an Instagram ad or something like that, I could literally then the next day go and implement that at work. So I knew whether or not if I understood or not, because I had to physically go and do it for a company that relies heavily on you. And that's a lot of responsibility. And for me personally, I like that because it means that my CV is looking nice. But I also understand the con of that is some people don't want that pressure out of school to know that anything you do, like your company's relying on you. So that might be a lot of pressure for some people, just having that pressure of like a team and having to work with metrics and stuff like that, because that was difficult at first. So I found that quite scary at first, to be fair. I think another con for some people is the fact that obviously before COVID, you need to be waking up early and going into the office Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And if you're straight out of school, maybe, so 16, you might not be bothered to do that. You might just want to have fun and relax and take your time. So for some people, that isn't it. It's definitely difficult at first, but it is the real world. So even if you do go to uni and you spend a bit longer getting into the workplace, we're all going to end up there if that's what you want to do. So it can be a con to some people, just depending on your like stage in your career or your mentality. And then I would also say another pro for me is just the community. This is something that most people don't know. I had a whole social life. Like last year, December, actually, no, not last year now. Oh, that was COVID. So 2019 December, we were literally doing a boat party, and people were like, "Where are you guys? Like, what is this?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's literally an apprentice party only." And people had no idea. People were like, "Oh my god, wow, you guys get so much fun." We would have like events in partnership with Monzo to learn about finance. We basically get this thing called off-the-job training, where in addition to our training, so for me, it was digital marketing qualification and my job, you get 20% to do whatever you want. So whether that's shadowing someone in your team, going to an external event, upskilling with like, I don't know, a course or something. And it basically builds you up so that you are the young professional that is thriving, you're killing your role. And it means that when you finish, say you didn't like your company for whatever reason, your CV is packed. And if you do like your company, then you're most likely to get a promotion. So I would say those are the main pros, things that have definitely benefited me. And it's also, for me personally, this is quite a unique experience, allowing it to help me to build my personal brand. I can't say apprenticeships help you too, but mine definitely did. And that's what basically kickstart a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with like, yeah, youth activist stuff and youth fund dots came from my apprenticeship experience. So yeah, that's my pros and cons.
Yeah, I have to say that's a really, really fair judgment, because as you said, a lot of people are going to defend what they chose, but I like the fact that you actually gave it a fair judgment. And this is mad because obviously I know what Multiverse does, and I'm just sitting here listening to you. I'm like, man, even I, a guy that did an apprenticeship, we never, all we had was our coach come in to meet us at our employer, and then they just leave. You lot are getting boat parties. I'm like, what? So guys,
yeah, it's mad.
All the events you guys get to, I'm like, mate, like this is level.
And it's still continuing virtually. Our community is still growing. We're still doing stuff. So yeah.
Exactly. Actually, let me add this question. Actually, just also with the fact that you now work for Multiverse, right? Did you expect it to be as busy as you did when you were an apprentice with them?
That's such a good question. My experience is so unique. So I'll break it down real quick. So Multiverse, if anyone doesn't know, they're apprenticeship provider. So when I was going to apply for them, I was applying for their apprenticeships. I wasn't applying for the Multiverse. But then a role came in there. So they were like, well, we really like you. We like your video. So would you want to work for us? And I was like, yeah, why not? So I went through the process. I ended up working for them. I was in their community team. So at the time, Multiverse maybe had about 50 people working there. And the community team had one lady who was my manager or ex-manager at the time. And I came in and joined second. So I was actually part of building up that social experience. So that boat party we had, I planned that. Like the one with Monzo, I planned that. So together we built up the community to where it is today. So then once I had finished doing that, I finished my apprenticeship last year in April. And by that point, the community is massive, like 1,000 apprentices. We've done so many different events. It's amazing. It's such a success that I was like, cool. I did a digital marketing apprenticeship whilst building that community. I was like, marketing, I love it. I want to do a bit more of it because I felt like I was more doing events and stuff like that in that role. So that's when I then moved into this team I'm in now, which is our go-to-market team, which focuses on B2B marketing and partnerships, because I think I'm always changing my career, but basically based on my skills and what I'm good at, I thought partnerships was a great route for me. So now I get the best of both worlds. I get to do the marketing and the partnerships. And this side of the business is busy. other side was B2C, so facing like our apprentices. This side is facing businesses, and this is where it gets mad. Like, this is where I would say I didn't expect it to be this busy. Like, I am definitely out of my comfort zone and thrown in the deep end. But the great thing about that is every time you're thrown in the deep end, you learn so much. And then you look back in a couple months and you're like, how the hell did I do that? And then you're like, I did that, so I've just grown. And you're just adding to yourself every time. So yeah, to answer your question, Jonas, sure, I didn't expect it to be this way, but then I did move teams. And that's another pro of doing an apprenticeship. You might not know exactly where you want to go, but if you're a good person, you work in the company, they love you, you can just move teams. So now I've done a year in that team, I'm in another team, and it was an easy transition. Do you know what I mean? Rather than having to the whole applying and blah, blah, blah. The apprenticeship, you build your brand, your internal brand in your company. You say to someone, you know, I'm looking to develop in this area, and then you can have that transition of moving. So that was, yeah, that's my answer.
Did you have to do an interview when you were moving teams, or did you just get switched?
I got switched and I had to speak to a few people, but it wasn't an interview. It was more like speaking to them about why I want to do it, what I see my role looking like, because it wasn't an official role. It was more just me saying I want to do partnerships, and there wasn't the space to do that in my team, in my current team at the moment. It made sense to do it over here. So I had to sort of say, I really want to do this. This is what it could look like. And then, spoke to a few people, our senior leaders, and I moved over. Yeah.
And I think that's also a key skill you need to have too, because I feel that I'm not going to be the guy that blames the school system for this. However, I feel that a lot of people come out of school, and I'm not going to blame the school system, but they come out of school and they don't have boldness to speak to adults. They don't say what they want. And it's not anybody's fault. It's not any young person's fault. But it's something I've noticed recently, that I feel that now that I've been able to meet, as obviously my voluntary stuff started when I was 16, and I was like a couple months away from 17. I've obviously worked with different people on a voluntary basis, and I'm with certain people who are on a big scale, but they're asking me, how should we run this? And Jonas, you're doing this with us. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm not used to this. I'm like, I thought you were just going to ask me what I want and then just say, okay, we're going to do it. But these guys want my opinion. And I think that it's tough sometimes, because I was like, what? I was confused. And I don't usually, my experiences to a lot of young people is quite different. So the fact that I was like that shows you how crazy it is, and how much there is a bit of a divide, I feel, between adults and young people, because I think that not all, but a few adults kind of make the boundary, how do I say, they make it quite uncomfortable for us, because they try to like condescend us and stuff like that. And I feel that that really affects our young people, but we don't know it affects us. It's unconsciously affecting us. And I think it's something that the older generation did to them, and then their generation above them. So it's kind of like a cycle. What would you say?
We need to break that cycle. We need to break that cycle for sure. I definitely agree with you. There's no one's fault, but things could be changed. I think even just in schools, how we talk to young people. We know that teacher everyone had that was just so condescending, and like they didn't trust you. Like, I'm gonna put everybody in pairs because I know what's best for you, sort of thing. Let us choose our own pairs, or I need us to do this a certain way. Like, empower the youth to make their own decisions, because that's when they become so reliant on an adult or just someone to tell them how to do things. So I think there's things that can be changed in schools. But I think also it's a bit to do with people's personality as well. You can't make everyone like that. You know, in the same way there's extroverts and introverts, some people will be more bold than others. But yeah, I think it's just empowering young people to make those decisions themselves. And it's so difficult. I struggle with it sometimes. But yeah, it wasn't easy to be like, I want to do a new role, like leave a team that you built up. It's not easy to, but then you have to always like think about what's going to be good for you and your development. And that's not practice, because the minute someone says that, it's that you're being selfish. So it's just changing the narrative around people that put themselves first, not hurting others. I'm just making sure I'm set up. And that comes back to the whole self-motivation thing I was saying earlier, because I realized that people won't go as hard for your career as you will. You'll have mentors, you'll have sponsors, you have people who like really care about you and champion you, but still no one is going to do more for you than you'll do for yourself. So we need to empower young people so they can actually back themselves, or they're going to spend years relying on someone to direct them. And that's how loads of young early talent don't get promoted and stay at the bottom of the chain, especially interns. They come in and they stay, a lot of them stay because they haven't got that own, I don't know, not self-motivation, but the power to feel and power to say, I've been here for X amount of time. I need something. So I'll give an example. I did I think it was, I did an internship. So it wasn't at Boohoo. That was a placement that I had when I was in fashion college. It was another company. I probably should say the name. I did an internship there, and I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks, but I really liked it and I really wanted to stay because I was doing cool things. So I said to them, can I stay? And they let me stay. Imagine I was there for 6 months not getting paid. They paid for my travel expenses, but that's nothing because when you have no money, the money they reimburse you, you just keep on using, like you're not earning anything on that. So it got to a point where I was like, wow, so I'm spending money to come in, like help you guys with ideas, do all this stuff, and I'm not getting paid. I'm not, it was supposed to be 3 weeks. I've been here for 6 months and no one is here to tell me, Shola, you're doing a good job. We want to pay you or we want to keep you on. So I had to have that difficult conversation where I was like to them, I'm supposed to be here X amount of time. And it's so annoying because back then I didn't know it was actually illegal to do that. Whereas now it is. You can't be having interns and not paying them, especially when it's a certain period of time. I didn't know that. I don't even know if it was legal back then. But I had to have that difficult conversation where I was like, I really love working here, but I've been here for 6 months. And are you guys going to like keep me on? Like, what's the plan? And they were basically like, oh, unfortunately, there's no spaces here. So it's up to you what you want to do. And that was so crushing because I was like, wow. So if I didn't say anything, you guys would have just had me here working like a slave, literally putting in all this work for nothing. And I feel like it's the small things like that when you're like, I have to have my back. I have to make sure that I'm going in the direction I want to be in. Because if you just allow things to just go, people won't have your back all the time. And that's just one example. I'm not trying to scare anyone into thinking that no one's going to have your back. But I'm just saying when it comes to your career, put yourself first, especially when you're from Endz. Because you're not going to, most of the time, you're not going to have that silver spoon or that person to just come in and save you and pick you up, or that uncle that works at Google who can just take you in. So you have to be on your P's and Q's, basically. That's something I've learned.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also it's uncomfortable for us as well because we're from Endz. And it's like, it's a thing of when you go to work, and I notice this myself, I feel I'm professional, but when I'm with people I like or they're from Endz too, a bit of Endz comes out of me, you know what I mean? Like I use a bit of slang here and there, and I think it's not that deep. It's not that deep, but like I use.
It's not that deep.
I use all the time, and people don't care. It's not a big deal. People know even adults, like probably my grandparents even know what I mean when I say what I say because they've been around me since I was young, and I was using like words like bear and stuff like that from primary school, and it's not going to leave my vocabulary. I don't think, probably not, but I don't care. I'm calm with that because that's where I'm from. And it gets to a point where, for example, I remember there was a time where I was talking to someone I know, and let's not lie, a lot of the time, I'm sure at least everyone's done this once in their life. They've made up a fake word, like the word in it. It's not a real word, but all words are made up. So I can say what I want. All words, you know what I mean if I'm saying in it. So why is it a big deal if I'm saying it? And they were like, I remember people said to me, don't say that word. How dare you talk like that? Don't talk like that again here. I was like, excuse me? Excuse me?
No way.
I was like, excuse me. I wasn't offended, but I was just like, I was scared. You know when you laugh something off and you're just like,
you have to laugh it off in a moment, but like deep down you're like, are you serious?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Okay, is that how you want to move? Okay, cool. Like, I'm not gonna stop. Nothing's gonna stop me from doing it because, to be honest, how am I supposed to become the best version of me if I forget where I was from? How am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to do? You're seeing all the. I'm sorry, but when Dave won his Brit, where did he shout out? He shouted out where he was from, Streatham, South London. I know that's a rapper, but still, that's still a profession. So why can't I pay homage to the area that I was born and bred? Why can't I do that?
Don't get me started on this topic. Don't get me started on this topic because I have too much to say on this topic. And honestly, yeah, someone needs to have a podcast episode dedicated to that topic of just being able to be yourself when you're from Endz in a work environment. Yeah. Because boy, sometimes it's difficult. Yeah. Like you said, you have to compromise what you're saying. Like you have to watch what you're gonna say. Like you're like, sometimes I'm so used to saying slang. I'm like, what is the non-slang word for that? right now so that people understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's so hard, man.
Yeah,
Oh my God, that is a hard one.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. And now I want to go into the first segment of the show. And this is the first time I'm ever doing this segment. It's called Take Me To. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk about a situation, a place, and I want you to tell me what it was like, how you're feeling there, and all that kind of stuff like that. All right?
Cool.
Cool. So the first one is, and we've kind of gone over this, but it's still fine. The feeling and thoughts that you had before and leading up to your first day at work.
Oh, great question. Okay, cool. Let me think. First day of work. That was okay. Wait, when you say first day at work, do you mean my apprenticeship or work? Like work as in retail. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, cool. So I was 16 and I got a job at Victoria's Secret in Bond Street. And I was so excited because at the time, like I would watch Victoria's Secret shows and like the models on the runway. And it was a big deal for me to get a job like that for my first job. So I was really excited. I love this series, by the way, because it's making me memorize things. But yeah, it was really exciting. I didn't know how it was going to be, but it was a great time. I loved that job. That was one of the retail jobs I loved. But I had to stop because traveling from Croydon to Bond Street, it was just too much. And I had to get there for like 8 a.m. So I was leaving at like 6 a.m. My little 16-year-old me in the cold. So I had to quit that and go to Five Guys. But it was really good when I was there. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Next one. Take me to a non-COVID working day for Shola West.
Okay. Non-COVID working day. That would be then in my previous job. So not in this team, because I've only done this team virtually. I think, yeah, one of my favorite days was the planning around that event with Monzo. Because I had to basically make a campaign around teaching the apprentices things that you aren't taught in school when it came to finance. So yeah, manager was like, do that. And I had to think of a creative way of doing it. So I was like, okay, cool. We could just like send a bunch of, I don't know, things on email. Or we could try and get in contact with Monzo and do an event with them. And that was my thinking. I didn't think we could do it, but we managed to find like their community manager and make something happen. And I made this series called How Not to Be Broke. And we had some excellent speakers from like Urban Financier, he's massive on Instagram. We had Laura Waitley, she has a book that looks like the Monzo card, actually. I forgot what it's called. And that day was really defining because it was one of the days where it was one of our biggest events at the time. And like I said, because I built that team up, I didn't think we could do it. And it was just really nice to see apprentices there that's just happy, learning, and yeah, showing people that we can do amazing things as apprentices too. So that was fun.
Sensational, sensational. And the final one for you is take me to the feeling that you had when you found out that you'd be working with SBTV.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I can't lie to you. That was really fun because that was part of a wider National Apprenticeships Week campaign. So there was a few activities going on that week, but there was BBC, Spotify, and then I found out about that. And yeah, I was gassed. I can't lie. I was gassed. The behind the scenes filming was really fun because I got to meet a bunch of young people from this school. And yeah, working with them to like pretend to film the music video. I don't know if you ever saw it, but we basically had to film that music video showing like what apprentices do. And P Money was basically rapping over it. And yeah, it was loads of takes. It was almost like being actors or something. Loads of takes, but it was really fun, exciting, a bit nerve-wracking, but it was good.
Cool, amazing, amazing. Yeah, I'm just the way you're talking about it is just making me, it's bringing me back to when I saw that on your story and saw that kind of stuff. So it's amazing, it's amazing. Now
I can't wait to get out of lockdown.
Yeah, I've been saying this, but yeah, I've been saying this too, but you know, we're nearly there. It's all good, but yeah.
Nearly there. Yes, I'm excited for the TEDx. I'm excited. Cool. Yeah, that was a moment that was so gassed as well. I couldn't believe that one. Yeah.
Cool. And my next question for you, Shola, is, so out of this segment now, back into the questions. What is Youth Unlocked and what is the reason that you decided to start it?
Yeah, so Youth Unlocked is a mixture at the minute. It's a community platform which is just based on Instagram at the moment, and we've also run a few events just before, actually not just before, but during COVID, but last year. And we also have a podcast. And at the moment, I'm rebranding. So I don't know when you're going to put this podcast out, but from next Monday, things are going to be looking really different on Youth and Lots. So I don't want to say too much, but yeah, prior to that, the reason why I set up is because being from Endz and having your first role in the city, which is what I like to say, Endz the city, it can be difficult. I can't lie to you. Like, it's amazing. Of course, you're leveling up. You feel like you're on your way to greatness. And I talk about this in my TEDx as well. But sometimes it's difficult with managing just cultural shock. Sometimes just being imposter syndrome, just being in an environment that is not really the environment you're used to. And I found that I wasn't the only one. I would have these random conversations I could do with you, Jonas, and like other people. And I realized like loads of people were feeling the same way. So I was like, okay, I don't want to start a business. That was never my intention. I never actually wanted to be an entrepreneur. I literally just wanted to work my way up to a company and become a VP. But because I felt like that and it was COVID, I was like, well, I know how to plan events because of my role. Why don't I just put on an event and have it be about microaggressions, imposter syndrome, cultural shock, get a bunch of panelists, because I've been able to meet some really great people, and just put on an event and put on LinkedIn and just tell people to sign up. That was literally the mindset behind it. Did that, and because we had about 60 people on the call, bearing in mind there wasn't a Youth Unlocked, it was just an event. From that, I was like, wow, like this did great. And I went on to do a couple more events, and I realized like I should make this into a thing. It can't just be a random event. So that's really how Youth Unlocked came about. So it's not your traditional, it wasn't your traditional me being like, I want to have a business, I did a business plan. It's more like I felt an impulse feeling, and I was like, okay, I can't be the only one. I want to help others. I feel like I'm one of those people that just really want to help others. It's just a natural thing for me. I like, if I'm struggling with something and there's nothing else out there, then how can I be the one to help? So that's sort of why it came about. But yeah, like I said, stay tuned because the content is really changing from Monday. Yeah, and it could be about some things we've discussed today.
Cool. I'm looking forward to, I love, you know me, I love your content anyway. So like now that I'm thinking it was levels before and now you're rebranding. So now I'm like, mate, like this is gonna be a bit sick. But by the time this comes out, people are gonna already have seen this. Or if they're
Great.
not, if they're not followed, you need to follow this. You need to follow Youth Unlocked and follow Shola too. You're gonna just go on their account if you're not followed, give it a follow before you even look at anything, and then see it, and you'll say, that's why Jonas told me to follow. That's why Jonas told me to follow them. Trust me, guys, you got to do that kind of stuff. And Endz the city, I love that. I love that because I've never worked in the city yet. A lot of people that I did my apprenticeship with, so the adults told me, Jonas, why do you work here? You should be in the city. Why are you still in your area? I was like, well, the situation was I kind of needed to leave school within 2 weeks, or my mom wouldn't let me leave, because obviously I would have got to year 13 and I would have had half of my qualification already.
Yeah.
So my mom said, Jonas, you have to get a job in 2 weeks or you're staying. So I had to take anything. And I had a job at I had an offer at a law firm in Croydon actually. But
Nice.
I already started my first job, so I couldn't just leave. So it was a bit
Yeah.
And following on from that, actually, where do you see, I'm gonna add you to this as well. Where do you see yourself and Youth Unlocked in 5 years' time?
Yeah, this is a question where I'm literally like, I don't even know, if I'm honest, because I'm always changing my mind. That's something about me. I'm always changing. But I guess where I would like to be is I would like to own a house by 5 years. That's something that is one of the goals I'm saving towards. So I would like to have, I don't really care what it looks like. I'd like to own something. I own a property of my own. And career-wise, I can see myself in my personal development plan at the moment is partnerships manager. And I would hope it to be at some sort of like creative agency, whether that's like a music organization or fashion, but something creative, and being like the brand partnerships manager. That is something I just really like, the idea of partnering, working with people, talking to people. I know my strengths and it's there. Yeah. So I would see myself doing that. But again, I'm always doing the most, as you can probably see. So I'm doing this and then I'm like, I want to do that. I'm doing this. So who knows? And then Youth Unlocked. One day I really want Youth Unlocked to just be that main youth platform that young people from Endz identify with, period. Like I want them to be like, do you know what I mean? Like if you're from Croydon or wherever you're from and you're like, okay, cool, I actually want to consider a city job. Then they're like, okay, cool. I've seen this page, miss, like, can we get them in to do a workshop? Or you're in college and you're like, or you're actually in your job and you're struggling with microaggressions in the workplace and you're like, this is just getting on my nerves. I need someone to speak to. Youth Unlocked, like everyone is just directed to Youth Unlocked. That is what I would like for Youth Unlocked for 5 years, 100%. I've got that one worked out. But yeah, my own career on that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That's the thing though. People, I think a lot of people, no, actually, I know a lot of people, they're kind of like, oh, I don't know where I want to be in 5 years or 10 years. It's okay, because trust me, people probably think, a lot of people tell me, one, Jonas, it always seems like you've always been on it in your life. This is a new thing, guys. I started moving like this with this whole, the way I speak and stuff like that. This was when I was probably like nearly 18. So that's like a year and a half ago. And this whole caring about my career was straight after secondary school. So this is a couple months before I turned 17. So I'm still new to this. And even now I've got my 5-year plan and stuff. Actually, I've got more than 5 years. I've got 10 years because I always need to know what I'm doing. I'm that kind of person. But it changes all the time.
That.
It always changes. That's the thing though. So I'm not too fussed about it because I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. I still want to do what I want to do, obviously, but the way I'm doing it kind of changes a lot. And this is the thing, because I was reading in a book that mastery isn't a destination, it's a journey. So you're changing things, chopping and changing things, getting better at things, being
exactly
the zone. And that is when you get to that level where you know what you're doing is mastery, but that could take 10 plus years. And we've spoken today about being out of your comfort zone. For years, I didn't feel like I was out of my comfort zone, but now it's tough. It's tough right now. But guess what? You always know when you're feeling uncomfortable that you're about to level up. So I just say that to myself, and I'm sure you do the same, and just be like, you know what? But when I get through this and it's time for the next level, drink a glass of water and get ready again. That's what you got to be.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. That is definitely my mindset.
Yeah. And just to wrap this up now, the second segment, Shola, and the final segment this is my favorite part of the show, actually. And it's, what are your 3 rules for success?
Oh, that is such a big question. Damn. I guess you're considering everyone on this podcast successful, or at least they consider themselves successful to answer that question. But I would say, number 1, stay true to whatever it is that you're doing, or at least try to, whatever it is you're doing. I don't care what career it is. I don't care what your goals are. I don't care what motivates you, but stay true to what it is you're doing, and don't get caught up in what other people are saying. Other people are shoving down your throat, what the media is shoving down your throat, because it's so easy to compromise your values and like what means well for you. So you have to kind of block that out, because people will say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a generic answer, like, to be successful, work hard. I'm not going to tell you that. Well, I could have, but I'm not going to tell you that, because I think there's more to that than just working hard, and working hard is subjective anyway. So I would say, if you've got values, if you've got goals, your mission, just stay true to that always, because that's what's going to be able to hold you down, especially in those times where you might be not as humble anymore. Just remember those. I would say be flexible and adaptable to change, because like me and Jonas were literally just saying, like, for me anyway, my career, when I was really young, I wanted to do modeling. Then I wanted to do something in fashion. Then I wanted to do digital marketing. Now I'm doing partnerships. With the thing is with success is, when I've heard people talking about it, they make it seem like you need to know where exactly you want to go. And then when you hit that, you're going to be successful. But the problem with thinking like that is, what if you want to change? Then you tell yourself you can't change, and then you end up unhappy. And that's what, and I know that from older family members in my family, who they went to uni to do, I don't know, they wanted to be an accountant. They went through the whole thing. And even on that journey, they realized, this isn't for me. I don't like it as much, but they went through with it because they wanted to do that tick exercise and say, I've done it. But if you're flexible and adaptable to change, and you almost prepare to fail, then you can always rise above it. So I would say that. And lastly, I would say nothing, if I'm honest. I would say, stop listening to other people tell you what success looks like, and figure out for yourself, because that is going to be different for everybody. Some people is making $1 million. Some people is just literally getting a job in the pandemic. Some people is getting their house, their car, their health. So I can't even tell you what success is, or the rules of success, when we have different ideas of success. So I would say, just know yourself. And that kind of relates to point 1 of understanding what it is for you. There's too much emphasis on, like, books about how to be successful, in my opinion, and things on how to be successful. And if you type it in on Google, you'll see 5 ways you can be successful, 3 ways, whatever. But success is so subjective. Everyone has a different point of view of what success is. How are you listening to what a book's telling you when their idea of success is, I don't know, financial freedom, but to you, it's just having a family. So work out what success is to you. And I feel like that's how you will be successful, because only you know what that is, if that makes sense.
Exactly. This is just why I always say that a lot of people can't come and tell you, oh, a lot of people like to flex, say, oh, I'm working for this company or that company. And I'm like, what if that person just wants to run their own business? Or what if that person wants to work for an apprenticeship provider? How are you acting like that's the be all and end all? Because everybody's different, and success, of course, is everyone's opinion. That's why I always say in some of my sessions and workshops, I say, there's an activity that I do where I say, write down what success means like to you. Obviously, we go into
Exactly.
you know, I'm like, don't let me tell you what success is. Don't let anyone else tell you what success means. Don't let your teachers tell you. Don't let your parents tell you, and certainly don't let your friends who aren't doing nothing for themselves tell you. Some of your friends get advice from if they're doing well and they care about their future, but the ones that are like, they're not really on it like that, still be their friend. Don't just ditch them unless they're doing something crazy, but just ensure that you're not because I know it's hard sometimes to not be peer pressured by other people. But yeah,
exactly, because for you to actually be content with success one day, you had to define it yourself. That's how I see it.
100%, Shola. Thank you so much for coming on the Let's Talk Facts podcast. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we end the episode?
No, just thanks so much for having me on this podcast. It's amazing. So yeah, thanks everyone for having me and listening. And if you want to talk about apprenticeships or anything like that, feel free to just message me on LinkedIn, which is just literally Shola West. But yeah, anything you need, just let me know and I can help you.
Yes, 100%. And make sure you follow her. Make sure you follow Youth Unlocked. Remember, don't look at the content until you follow it. Then look at it. Then DM me and say, Jonas, I followed them and you were right. Guys, please do that. Please ensure that you're giving these accounts that deserve those follows. And guys, stay safe. Wash your hands. Keep your distance. Follow the rules. And we're going to be out of here soon, all right? I'm sick of it. Shola's sick of it. We're all sick of it. So let's just work together, please. I want my life back. But guys,
Same.
what we should do is
But thank you.